I don't want to change the subject really, but I'd like to know about grit.
Can we start on diets generally?
Can I ask you a question? Grit. Can
I just go look that one up now?
I think we call it overruled.
Soluble
Grit.
or insoluble grit.
Well, I use the grit from you, Simon. Mineralised grit and oyster shell. I mix it.
Can we explain to listeners who may not keep birds, may not know a lot about them, that grit essentially is in two forms. What I call soluble grit, which would be your oyster shell, where calcium and sometimes other minerals can be absorbed from it in the stomach, and so the bird is getting a nutritional benefit from it. And the insoluble, which is grit that is not broken down, or not to any appreciable extent, but remains in the gizzard and helps with the grinding down of food. Are you happy with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've two sorts of grit.
Yeah, I mix them together, yes.
How often do you feed it, or is it there as
It's there all the time. We've got some people in our hobby refuse to feed grit.
Yeah.
And I say, well, the grit is an essential for grinding the seed in the gizzard.
They have never looked inside. I hate to keep talking about dead birds, but you can do it with an endoscope. They've never looked inside the stomach of a citizen bird. There's always grit. In fact, if there isn't grit in there, there's something wrong.
Right.
The lining of the stomach...
That's what I tell them.
Yeah. The stomach of a budgerigar and other citizen birds is lined with a keratin-like material, like the stuff on the feet there, that's called koilin, Koilin. And that is so tough that it can tolerate the grit itself. It provides a firm support for it. And then when the food goes down, as you know, the grit helps break it up and into smaller parts, which can then be digested properly to get benefit.
This is a really this is an important one for me, because Chris, obviously, when he was very keen to meet you, John, and thanks for inviting us here today. Thank you ever so much. This is a great opportunity for me and for anybody who's listening.
I for the coffee and the mince pie.
Well, they've been wonderful.
And it's £30 an hour.
Oh, okay. Well, let's wrap this up with. But Chris, who undersells his scientific ability, understands from the art perspective and how long he's been keeping birds, instinctively knows, after having done this for such a long time, that grit is an important part of his feeding regime. But the wonderful thing for Chris to know, because obviously this is really the backbone or one of the backbones, the calcium backbone, and so on of his feeding regime. But John, as a veterinary pathologist, you're now confirming to Chris, because you've been seen inside a bird, that actually he's been doing the right thing. It's the right thing to do.
Absolutely, yes.
Good.
Any bird, any citizen bird that hasn't got grit in its stomach, in its gizzard, I'm worried about. There's a problem there.